A caravan of Central American migrants is now camped at the U.S.-Mexico border, hoping to be granted asylum in the U.S. Their predicament is all too familiar to many in Central America. El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras all consistently rank among the world's most violent countries. In 2015, El Salvador was the most violent country not at war, though it has since reduced its homicide rate by a third. But as conditions have improved somewhat in El Salvador, they have deteriorated elsewhere in the region. Honduras has been embroiled in a political crisis since its election last November, which the opposition says was stolen by center-right President Juan Orlando Hernandez. Protests against the outcome have been met by violent repression, with anti-riot police using tear gas and water cannons to break up demonstrations. And Honduras is not alone. Guatemala, too, has erupted in protest, with thousands marching through the capital to demand the resignation of President Jimmy Morales, who faces allegations of campaign finance corruption. And now even Nicaragua is facing political upheaval after more than 2 decades of relative calm. Student protests first erupted in response to changes to the Social Security system, but took on a revolutionary tone when protesters began to die at the hands of the police. Despite concessions by President Daniel Ortega, including the cancellation of the controversial pension reform, young people across the country are now challenging his decade-long rule, during which he has steadily concentrated power in his and his wife's hands. The current upheaval in Central America is rooted partly in the region's history of civil war. In El Salvador and Guatemala, U.S.-backed governments bent on crushing leftist rebels and their supporters pursued strategies that left hundreds of thousands dead. Honduras didn't have a civil war of its own, but served as a staging ground for the U.S.-backed Contras, a right-wing rebel group fighting Nicaragua's Ortega-led Sandinista government in the 1980s. While the details differ, all of these conflicts left damaging legacies, including fragile institutions, organized crime, corruption, drug trafficking, and gang violence. While Ortega's authoritarian model helped to rein in violence for a time in Nicaragua, the limits of that approach are now becoming apparent. In particular, a collapse in aid from Venezuela has made it difficult for Ortega to maintain the social spending needed to co-opt and fend off dissent. Despite America's historical role in creating the conditions from which so many are now fleeing, the majority of asylum claims by Central Americans are ultimately rejected, resulting in detention and deportation. And given the Trump administration's vehement opposition to immigration, this seems unlikely to change anytime soon.